Good evening, I'm John Carter and welcome to Poland Daily. The negotiations regarding appointments for key EU institutions are close to a breakthrough. As well as Poland, other Visegrad Group countries, along with Italy, oppose Frans Timmermans' candidacy. The current German Minister of Defence, Ursula von der Leyen, has become the new name in contention for the presidency of the European Commission. Today, the European Parliament met for the first time after the May elections.
Candidacy, German Defence Minister Ursula von der Leyen has a chance to take the post of the President of the European Commission. EU's Tusk proposed von der Leyen as EU Commission Chief. According to diplomatic sources, von der Leyen's candidacy is acceptable to Poland. Our country's delegation will not be opposing it.
Nowe czasy potrzebują nowych ludzi, nowych idei.
New times require new people, new ideas, new openings. Therefore, the criteria we laid out in the very beginning are so important to us. We want the candidates to be chosen on the basis of a full geographical balance. Naturally, it is also important that these candidates be open-minded and open-hearted towards Europe, which is not equally developed as of yet.
The
European Parliament, which today met at the inaugural session of the new term, will have an important role to play in the game for key positions in the EU institutions. This session was not without demonstrations. During the solemn celebration of the European Union anthem, 28 Brexit Party deputies turned their backs on the rest of the European Parliament members.
The opposition in Poland still seems unsure on how to approach the parliamentary elections in autumn. There is debate as to whether the parties should form new coalitions or, despite suffering a defeat in the recent European Parliament elections, try to take on the ruling Law and Justice Party on their own. According to the newest pre-election polls, the inability to adapt a united strategy is damaging the opposition's support.
According to a survey conducted by the Ibris pollster on a group of around 1,000 people, there are two possible outcomes to the upcoming parliamentary elections, depending on whether the opposition unites or not. If the opposition doesn't unite, the Law and Justice Party would get 40% of the votes, and the Civic Platform almost 20%. The Spring Party, Democratic Left Alliance and Cookies 15 movement would also enter the parliament. Other parties would end up way below the electoral threshold. On the other hand, if the opposition did unite, then according to the survey, the Modern and Polish People's Party would enter the parliament, ending up with 28.5% of the votes, along with the Civic Platform Party. By forming such a coalition, the three parties could take away the votes of the Cookies 15 movement, which wouldn't pass the electoral threshold. However, this wouldn't necessarily be bad news for the Law and Justice Party, which would gain 2% in the case of the opposition uniting, raising its support to 42.5%. According to political scientist Dr. Bartłomiej Biskup, the unification of the opposition boosting the outcome from both major parties is a natural occurrence. With a united opposition, there are fewer alternatives, so it's only natural that people would vote for either of the main blocs or refrain from voting at all. Professor Kazimierz Kik stresses that even if the opposition unites for the elections, it will still be lacking in identity. Any survey leading to the conclusion that the opposition's unity would bear success is based on a false assumption. It's identity and reliability that people look up to. In this case, the reliability and identity of the Law and Justice Party is undeniable, and the same can be said for a coalition of several parties. Civic Platform Party MP Marcin Święcicki is of the opinion that thanks to the united opposition, the votes to mandates ratio would be better than in the case of a few smaller parties trying to prevail on their own. Some don't want to see such a wide alliance, so the opposition has to face this dilemma. How big should the alliance be, and will it help or damage our results? The talks are taking place all the time. Tonight we have another debate. The current government was formed on November 12, 2015, which means that by August 14 we will know exactly when the parliamentary elections will take place. Voters will receive two ballots, where they will be able to choose one candidate to the Sejm and Senate.
500,000 applications for the extension of the 500-plus social benefit programme have been registered. The funds from the extended programme, which launched just yesterday, could potentially reach almost 7 million children. Since the programme's inception in April 2016, Polish families have received over 7 billion zloty.
The situation is under control. We created a special emergency team to deal with the high number of applicants. Indeed, the reception is wonderful. In the first hour we got 10,000 applications. Today it was already 1 million, and we are now reaching 1.5 million. With such high interest, we encountered issues with the Empatia and Zeus platforms, but we are dealing with all the problems manually. Also, it's not like someone won't be able to apply in time. Everything will be paid from the 1st of August and September, so we are glad it's all going according to plan.
Germany's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Heiko Maas, has warned that the relations will deteriorate between the two countries unless Italy releases Carola Rackete, the German captain of Sea-Watch 3. Rackete rammed an Italian patrol boat as she illegally sailed into Italy's territorial waters in order to disembark 40 African migrants. Rackete is the first person to be prosecuted in Italy for breaching Minister of Interior Matteo Salvini's security decree, which was passed in Parliament last year.
During a press conference following a meeting with his Danish counterpart, Heiko Maas called the arrest of Carola Rackete unacceptable and stated that Italy must release Rackete or expect an escalation in the dispute over migration between Italy and Germany.
I can accept
that a court deals with such issues, but once again, rescuing people from the sea is not a crime. It's a humanitarian act, which is why everything that would not lead to a release would create considerable aggravation. The German Minister of Foreign Affairs also stated that Germany doesn't understand Italy's actions and Italy's laws are flawed. Saving lives cannot be a crime. It's nothing else but a humanitarian act, and it must be treated as such. The opposite is if that is being criminalized. That is why we cannot comprehend events in Italy. Meanwhile, in Italy, Rackete appeared in court for the first time since her arrest. The prosecution is accusing her of endangering the lives of 4 policemen aboard a patrol boat which she rammed while forcing her way into the port in Lampedusa. She is also accused of resisting a warship order and of aiding people smugglers, crimes which can carry up to 10 years in prison.
In particolare è stato
We consider the maneuver that was carried out, and particularly the squashing of the police boat against the quay, in a particularly negative light. We believe it to be a deliberate act that was consciously carried out. We do not think this was an act that was necessary. There was no state of necessity between the Sea-Watch, which had been moored outside port, had received medical assistance and was in continual contact with maritime and police authorities for every kind of assistance. The Italian court is expected to announce later tonight whether Rackete will be released or if the process will continue.
Thank you very much for joining me here this evening at Poland Daily. I'm John Carter. Stay tuned after the break for Poland Daily weather. It's followed by the business, culture, history and finally the travel.